Carlos, hello again. Pleasure to be here. I have some of your questions already that we'll get to in a moment. But first, Carlos, if you and I could just start a conversation. Let's go around the world and talk about the principal issue in each market. Europe, start there. You know, in the US, when we had our crisis, the government said, you know, if you take out capacity and you fix your problems, we'll give you support. In Europe, the government said, we'll bridge you through the crisis, but you can't take out any capacity. You can't take any people out of their jobs. And there are those who say today that Europe has 20% too much capacity. Do you agree with that statement? And who has the excess capacity? Because everybody's pointing to the other guy.
No, I think everybody has some available capacity, let's say, in Europe. It's true that the different countries in Europe are not encouraging at all the restructuring of the industry. In a certain way, they understand that there is a need for restructuring, but they don't want it to be at home, maybe somewhere else. So it's paralyzed all car manufacturers. Some car manufacturers, I said, well, you know, we can do with this. It's not a problem. And others are saying, we can't continue to do like this. I think if this position continues, what you're going to see is a weakening of a lot of car makers in Europe compared to the US car makers or compared to the Asian car makers. Because as long as you cannot restructure, you may survive, but you are weakening all the time. You cannot invest as much as your competitors. You cannot be as to the point, not only in terms of technology, but in terms of cost competitiveness and in terms of investments where you need to invest. And little by little, particularly the car makers who are heavily present in Europe will lose their edge compared to the other car makers. It's going to take some time. I don't think this is something that you're going to see happening within the next 2 years. But on a period of 5 to 10 years, I have no doubt on the fact that the lack of restructuring in Europe, but particularly for those car makers who need it, is going to be a drag on their potential prosperity in the future.
Even before Nissan was really turned around, you made a bold strategic alliance in China with Dongfeng, billions. How's it worked out? How has Nissan's position developed in China?
Yeah.
And how do you see the Chinese market?
You know, when you're leading a car maker, every single decision which is going to be important for the future is always faced by resistance and criticism. I've never seen anything different. The most important decision I've taken in my career were always at the beginning received with a lot of skepticism, irony, criticism, etc. Starting with the turnaround of Nissan itself. You know, all the measures that I wanted to take were accepted with a lot of criticism at the beginning in Japan, and even outside Japan saying, you know what, you can't cut your costs for revival, you're going to make profit, but you cannot expand the company, you're not going to establish the technology, you're going to get there, all the typical criticism. And as you know, history has shown, 13 years after, that not only we have established the company, we have more doubled its volume. Nissan was the highest growing company last year, even with all the problems we had between the earthquake and the Thai flood and the strength of the yen, etc. Which means that we created a company today which is extremely, in a certain way, young and ongoing and on the offensive. In 2002, as you know, all our Japanese competitors were already in China. We were not in China. So people say, you're coming late first. It was 2002. Second, you may not have the right partner. You may not have the product, etc. We went in. We invested heavily. In 2002, 2003, we sold 60,000 cars in China. Last year, we sold 1.2 million. And this year, we'll be selling 1.4 million. China became our largest market in front of the United States. And this happened in less than 10 years. So I'm very bullish on the Chinese market. Obviously, I don't think the Chinese market is going to continue to grow at 20% a year. It's impossible. We can't catch up. But even with 5-6% a year, I think it's going to be a very healthy market. 5-6% a year, it makes 1 million additional car every year, which obviously is going to be a challenge for all car makers to be able to build capacity fast enough in order to sustain this growth. So I'm very bullish on China.
So let's go to Japan. A horrific, unbelievable human tragedy with the earthquake. And you look at the resilience of the Japanese people. It's, on a human scale, an incredible story. But also, Nissan made an amazing recovery as a company itself, and said it was going to do things at a certain time and was able to deliver on every promise that was made. So two aspects. What does it say about Japan and its market, and what does it say about the company Nissan?
Well, you know, what it says about Japan is very simple. I mean, Japan has nothing except its people, nothing. There is no oil, there is no metals, there is no natural gas, there is no land, there is no agriculture, there's nothing in Japan, only people, islands and people. And the only strength of Japan are human resources. And frankly, during this crisis, it was an absolute demonstration about why Japan, out of nothing, became second economic power in the world, now third behind China, but still one of the major economies in the world, with practically no natural resources, or no natural resources comparable to what Brazil has, or Russia has, or China has, or even India has. And with the demography which is declining, as you know. So I think it speaks a lot about the resilience, the engagement, and the sense of sacrifice and discipline that Japanese people can exercise in the most dramatic circumstances. I've been witness to this because I've been touring all our plants. I was on the front line. I went in the most ravaged plants of Nissan, and every single place I've been witness about how modest, how resilient, how resolute people were in order to rebuild the company and in order to rebuild the country. So I think no matter what, Japan will continue to be a force in the global economy, not for other reason than of the strength of its people. This being said, as you know, I've been very vocal about the strength of the yen, because at the moment that the whole economy was down and we were all paralyzed, the yen, you would expect that the currency would weaken a little bit, when in fact it strengthened after the earthquake. It was unbelievable that the yen came to 76 yen to the dollar, which was 40% appreciation, 50% appreciation compared to before to 2008, at the worst moment for the Japanese economy. Even with this, I think, the Japanese people did not just abandon the challenge. They worked very hard, and little by little, the country is getting back from the crisis with a lot of sacrifice, and a lot of sacrifice which are unknown. There is not a lot of marketing around what's taking place in Japan. But it has been a very negative thing for the country, a drama for a lot of families. The number of lost life is unbelievable. And we had people in our own company, not only our own employees, but some of their relatives. But the positive side, it reinforced, what made Japan such a great economy.
So let's come to North America. I've been in this business 40 years. For 40 years, I thought the business model here of production push over capacity was something we'd struggle with forever. It took an epic economic downturn, and it pains me as a Republican to say this, but a government task force to finally restructure our industry. But it really is a new beginning. It's a new beginning. How do you see North America?
No, I think it is a new beginning, and I think 6 months or maybe 1 year before the collapse of General Motors and Chrysler, I don't think anybody would have guessed that the US government would become the major shareholder of 2 major car companies. I think somebody would have told me this 1 year before it happened. I said, this is a joke. In fact, which means that the reality is always, different from what you could expect. At the end of the day, the bottom line, whether we agree on it or not, the bottom line is the 3 automakers came back out of the crisis stronger. They are alive and kicking today. They are expanding. They are much more competitive. jobs have been saved and employment is progressing, which is good. We have to recognize that. And in a certain way, I'm telling you today what I said just before the collapse of General Motors or the collapse of Chrysler. Nobody wanted the collapse of one of the car makers in the United States, because we all knew that if one of the car makers in the United States would collapse, we will all pay a very high price for this. For a very simple reason, is a lot of our suppliers are common to them. And I don't think a lot of suppliers would have survived to the collapse of a company like General Motors. So we were all, in a certain way, willing to support in any way we can, any rescue plan to allow this activity to overcome the financial crisis. And at the end of the day, it happened. It happened. And in a certain way, I think it's a good thing for the United States, and I think it's a good thing for the industry.
So you are also CEO of Renault. You have a large government shareholder. So do you have any advice for General Motors and Chrysler how to manage a government shareholor?
I'm not the best expert into how to manage relationship with government. I'm not, frankly. This is probably one of my weakest points, I would say, in terms of management.
I suspected that somehow.
Exactly. The French government has 15% shares in Renault. I don't know what is the share of the U.S. government in General Motors. I think it went down, huh?
It's still significant.
It's still
significant.
It's still significant. Maybe I ought to go see Dan Akerson. He may teach me certain things about.
So, as Phil mentioned, you're a comic strip hero, but you're also a movie star. Revenge of the Electric Car. So, was that acting, or are you really that patient and considerate and understanding in meetings?
No, I think in everybody's life, obviously we are in the car industry because we like the products, we like the industry, we like the technology, because on top of this we're dealing with a lot of people. We have 350,000 employees worldwide. We have about 2 million people working for the group. So. And we deal with thousands of suppliers, we deal with thousands of dealers, so it's a great industry. It's a great industry for many reasons. So back to the question that you're asking. I think that in our industry, from time to time there are breakthroughs, and from time to time there are points which are important for the future. And I really believe that the zero-emission technology is a technology which is going to become more and more important for the sake of the industry. Not only because it's good for society, but even for our industry, to change the image of our industry and to allow our industry to see the future with less apprehension. I think we need to move towards these technology which allows, first, to get out of oil, and second, to be able to be less contributing to the overall emission scheme. So that's why when the idea of making a movie about the return of the electric car, I said, why not? We should talk about our own experience, what we're doing. And we did it in a way which is, and I knew that Bob Lutz would be on the other line, and Musk would be from the third, but it's fun. It's part of making the electric car more popular and making people at least paying attention to what's taking place. Because we don't want to appear as people who are a little bit conservative, never open to the future, never open to the new technology, not considering the problem that society is facing. No, we are. We worry about the planet, we worry about oil, we worry about the price of gasoline, we worry about the emissions as anybody else. And because we are responsible of large company contributing to this problem, we want to make sure that people understand that we're contributing to the solution. And contributing to the solution not with lip service, but with full engagement behind certain technology that's going to make the difference in the future. I profoundly believe in it, and that's why I think you're going to see more and more Leafs, Nissan Leafs on the streets. I want to tell you that Renault has launched already 3 electric cars in Europe. There is a 4th one coming in September, and Nissan will be launching an additional 3 electric cars. So it's not one car, it's going to be a full product lineup. And wait until you see I think we're already at $4 the gallon in the United States. So you know what? This is the best advertising. That's going to be the best advertising for electric car. You ought to try it.
So I went through your battery plant outside Nashville. And you approach this plant, 500,000 square feet under roof, and you go inside the plant, and that's just a shell. There's another building inside the building. It's 0% humidity within the building and 100% clean room. The tolerances are unimaginable. It's like something you see with NASA, with people walking around in white suits making these things. And these batteries have to go through a 6-week process where everything is controlled. And if anything goes wrong in those 6 weeks, if there's a power interruption, you have to start all over. The complexity is unbelievable. Why did you decide that you were going to make your own batteries?
First, because there was no battery competitive on the market. None. Let's not forget that we launched this offensive on electric car in 2006. In 2006, there were not a lot of people making battery for the cars. So we were the first one, and we had the technology we said we're going to go in. Second, I told my engineers, I want 0 quality problems. That's it. You take all the caution necessary, but we take 0 quality problem. And I'm very glad because we have as I said, 25,000 Leafs being driven in the world today. We have not one particular serious quality problems. And I'm very proud of my engineering team that have delivered on this, that everything has been doing, even though, a lot of people said, this technology is unproven, we're going to have a lot of problems and surprising quality. We had none. And, all the cars are connected with the data center in Japan. We know exactly what's happening with every single car being driven. So the number one condition for the success of electric car is making the consumer feel he's comfortable, he's safe, there is no problem, that's number one. Then number two is cut the cost, not the other way around. After people feel comfortable, then you start to reduce the cost, because obviously our knowledge about process and about batteries is really moving very, very, very quickly. Now, I'm very glad to see that many battery makers are coming. A lot of them are Korean, some are Japanese, Americans, we have Chinese coming, and the cost of the battery is going down heavily, which is exactly what we wanted to see. Because ultimately, it's not the battery, it's about the car. We want the electric car to be competitive, to be reliable, and to be a car that everybody wants to drive. And for this, we need a battery, which is first, give you enough range, and second, would create no problem into the car. And this is exactly happening. But I can tell you that our battery manufacturing today is evolving very quickly. I mean, what you have seen a few months ago may change in 1 or 2 years because our knowledge is changing. There are a lot of things which are evolving towards more simple systems, more cost-effective, less investment into the process. And you're going to see the cost of the battery going down very quickly. We're going to move exactly the same way that the first portable phones moved. You started with heavy batteries. You needed 8 hours to charge, 20 minutes to talk, and now it's the reverse. You need 20 minutes to charge, and you can talk for a couple of days. But the battery for cars, with all the investments going on and the knowledge which is being developed, is going to follow the same process.
So I agree that electric cars are here to stay. I think the debate is the rate of adoption. And certainly here in the US, the government has played a crucial role in the creation of a small electric car in business, and they're certainly there on the demand side. So they've given capital loans for investment, and they give $7,500 per car tax credit. We could have a change in administration in the fall, and that tax credit could go away. What kind of impact do you think that would have on your Leaf business here in the U.S.?
Yeah, well, first, we said we don't need the tax credit forever. I mean, because any system needing a tax credit forever is doomed.
It's not sustainable.
We said from the beginning we needed just to reach a certain scale. The scale that we need to reach is 500,000 cars a year. We thought at the beginning it would be between 500,000 and 1 million, but I think now we're going to be more at 500,000. I'm going to tell you why. Because at the beginning we were counting on $80 the barrel, but it looks like the future is going to be much higher than this. So the higher the fuel goes up, the less you need incentive for the government. So it's not forever. It's just to reach a certain scale. This scale for us is above 500,000, less than 1 million car a year. And we're getting there because in 2016, the Alliance will be with the capacity of more than 500,000 cars a year globally. This being said, you should ask yourself why governments who all are in deficit across the board in the world are all eager to support electric cars. Why? Why the government? It's not only the government of the United States, the Chinese, the Japanese, the French, the British, everybody support the electric car. Maybe we have superb lobbying power. I don't believe so. I don't think so. I think it's because they know it's in the interest of the country. For very simple, I don't know the equation in the United States. I can tell you the equation in France. France, every year, pays 40 billion euro for its oil bill. 40 billion euro.
In the U.S., for the capital going out of the U.S. for imports, it's 400 billion, and last year was a record.
Okay, so you are just taking 400 billion dollars every year
and sending it out of the US.
out of the country. Yeah. Okay, you get nothing in front of that. You get nothing. Okay, so you have a bill of $400 billion. Now, at least 50%. I don't know. Probably the percentage in the United States. 40 or 50% of this bill is for transportation.
50%.
50%. So you're paying $200 billion every year just to import oil for your transportation. Okay? Now, what is the alternative? If you develop, for example, electric cars, and you start to use for electricity something else, nuclear power, hydraulic, wind, solar, natural gas, everything you have in the United States. While you are, in fact, just saving $200 billion. Or a portion of $200 billion. So if you take a look from a government point of view, every single government who has electricity based on internal resources, based on technology that it masters, based on employment in your own country, you're just trading a straightforward bill to a foreign country to something which is going to create employment and use your own resources. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. That's why all governments are doing it. The Chinese are doing it, the Japanese are doing it, the French are doing it, the Americans are doing it, not because of our lobbying power, because they know it is in the interest of the country to try to replace oil, which is imported, by something else which is going to require local resources and local employment. And you can do the maths in every single country. These incentives are not a cost, they are investment. An investment in employment in the country and in less dependence on a commodity which is out of control.
So let's talk about the amazing success of the strategic alliance between Renault and Nissan. And again, to put it in context, yes, Bob Lutz famously said, just dump $5 billion in the Pacific Ocean. And imagine Jürgen Schrempp, who was in line in front of you, blinked, and Jürgen didn't blink at too many acquisitions, but you forged ahead. And I've heard it, you say it's the concept of cross-ownership, that it's a new paradigm as a structure. I look at it, and as one who's lived through a few train wrecks of mergers and strategic alliances, and I say, no, it's you. It's you and your unique approach. And the former CEO of Renault, Louis Schweitzer, even said he wouldn't have even done the deal without you. So what are your guiding principles for strategic alliances, and what in your career gave you the understanding for that and the skill to be able to execute it? Because it's both.
Well, first, thank you for being so generous with me, including Bob Lutz and Jürgen Schrempp and Rich was there. They all give me much more than I deserve, even though at the end of the day, I was in charge of the turnaround of Nissan, and it worked well, and the alliance is working well after 13 years. I'm going to tell you the basic recipe for the success of this kind of alliance. It's very simple. You have to, at the beginning, tell what are the principles on which you are doing this alliance. But the most important thing is stick by them and walk the talk. Because if people start to say, for example, it's a merger of equal, and then they start to see that one is more equal than the other, and then one headquarter is more important, etc., you forget about the alliance, any spirit. And people are not dumb. They don't follow what you say, they follow what you do. And the most important thing, particularly in alliance, is make sure that every single thing you're going to say, you're going to, walk by them systematically, and nobody's going to catch you one day doing something different from what you have been saying. I can tell you, it has been my rule from the beginning. I said, this is a partnership, this is not an acquisition. And the two companies are going to remain separate. We're going to have two different executive committee, two different shareholder body, two different boards, and 13 years after, no matter what, we still operate under the same system. We deliver a lot of synergies. Nissan continue to be based in Japan, making its own decision. Renault continue to be based in France, making its own decision. And you know what? Because of this, we have had a great alliance with Dongfeng in China. We had AvtoVAZ in Russia. We had, good partnership with Ashok Leyland in India. Now we're working with Daimler. We have many projects with Daimler working very well because we just say, look, everybody stays with his own company. Each one is independent, but we are just here to work together on synergies. And it's just not fake. It's just not, we just work exactly in function of this principle, no more, no less. And then when people see that you are reliable because what you say you're going to do, and you're not going to do anything that you did not say, then I think you unleash this spirit of collaboration, which is so necessary in our industry.
And do you think your multicultural upbringing, being born in Brazil, educated in Lebanon, university in France, working in France and Brazil and America, could you manage a strategic alliance if you had just stayed in Brazil your whole life and all of a sudden been presented with this?
Probably more difficult. I'm going to tell you why. The fact of being in different culture and belonging to different countries can help you because people don't see you as a prototype of one particular culture. They don't say, oh, he's proposing this, obviously, he's French, so he proposed this, or he's Brazilian, he proposed that, or he's American, he sees that. No. People, when I arrived in Japan, people did not know if I was Brazilian, Lebanese, French, American, because I stayed 7 years in the United States.
And what do you consider yourself, by the way?
I consider myself as part of all these countries. That means I've learned a lot in every country where I've been. I enjoy being in the United States as much as I enjoy being in Brazil, or as much as I enjoy being in France or in Japan today. So I cannot relate to one particular country. But I'm going to tell you why it's easier. Because when you are acting and when you are talking, people don't say, oh, he's coming with his own management book from this particular country. Okay? So whenever people see that you're predictable because you're going to come with ideas that anyway are being attributed to one particular culture, you lost. Particularly when you're coming for a heavy turnaround in a country which is as proud and with such a strong culture like Japan. So the fact of not being in one category helped me a lot to get the benefit of the doubt. That's all. That's the only thing you can have at the beginning is the benefit of the doubt. If you have the benefit of the doubt, you have already won. You have won the right to play, to try. Because if not, you have resistance, and then you don't even have the possibility to try.
Ladies and gentlemen, amazing executive, Carlos Ghosn. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.